Hey, everybody, welcome to Live Fully Lead Authentically, a Brimstone Coaching Group podcast. My name is Kurt Busch, co founder of the Brimstone Coaching Group. Our longtime listeners are going to realize pretty quick that I'm here with another person that is not Chris Godfredson, the other half of Brimstone Coaching Group, but I'm here with a new friend, Marc Hoffman. Marc is an education entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, a podcast host, an author, and a national advocate in the LD/ADHD and neurodiversity community. Diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD at age 8, Marc brings both professional expertise and deeply personal insight to his work helping children, families, educators, and neurodivergent individuals recognize their strengths and reach their potential. Marc is the founder and president of Strong Start Early Care and Education, a premium early childhood education company with 3 locations, serving more than 600 children and employing over 150 team members. Through Strong Start, Marc is committed to providing high quality, inquiry based early education that prepares young children for long term success in school and life. He's also the founder of Hoffman Educational Group, which provides customized educational advocacy and consulting services for students and families. Marc is the host of Wired to Thrive, a podcast focused on neurodivergent entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers who are building meaningful lives and careers while thinking differently. He's also the author of Positive Mindset, Self Awareness, Perseverance, a guide to thrive while learning differences/ADHD. Marc previously served for more than 10 years on the board of Eye to Eye, now the Neurodiversity Alliance, including 3 years as board chair. This organization is a national nonprofit mentoring movement that connects students with LD/ADHD with high school and college mentors who share similar learning differences. Marc also holds a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Williams College and a master's degree in child clinical psychology from the Furkoff Graduate School of Psychology at Yeshiva University. Marc, it is super great to be with you. What our audience doesn't know is I got to spend a little time with you on your podcast, and I thought we hit it off really well. I loved the work that you do. There was a significant overlap in the way we think about the work we do, but obviously you come at this with a little different perspective and a different audience and a different way of thinking about your sort of niche in the coaching world. Yeah, I'm grateful you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit.
Kurt, I'm so excited. Our experience with my podcast had a lot of energy. We definitely have similar values. We see our work in the same way. So I'm excited. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if maybe this is too broad, but tell our audience a little bit more about like the boots on the ground kind of work that you do
Yeah.
and why you do it.
Yeah. So my work is driven by a mission to help people who learn differently and sort of don't fit into the mold and have come out of it on the positive side in terms of neurodiversity. I do a lot of different things, so I'm going to sort of talk about it in the current day where my focus is now with building a platform for neurodiversity, people with ADHD, dyslexia, any type of learning difference, and helping give them a voice. Primarily, and it's because of my experiences, we're looking to reach an audience of established entrepreneurs who are neurodiverse, or that entrepreneur who's looking to do that and they have a brain that doesn't fit in perfectly. So it's really sharing stories through my podcast. I'm super excited. It's been a thrill connecting with people like yourself, entrepreneurs. You kind of have a dual role. You're a coach and an entrepreneur, so it was a blast to have you on to be able to kind of give some of that advice, but also talk about your entrepreneurial experiences. But yeah, that's where my passions lie now. And then to sort of build up to that, I built a childcare business that has at this point about 600 kids. out in Connecticut that was an amazing experience building. I mean, I had a couple other businesses before that, but they didn't really kind of do too much financially, where it was something that was very scalable, I guess. And Strong Start is something that I scaled, and we'll see where that goes. And I'm sure we'll get into this today during the podcast. I'm kind of at a professional transition where Strong Start could scale, it could grow tremendously, but I'm sort of figuring out where my entrepreneurial priorities would be with this podcast, which is not really directly related to the early childhood because it's 0 to 5. The kids that we have at the schools are babies up until the end of pre-K. So the Wired to Thrive piece is not directly connected to the childcare businesses that I grew. So I'm sort of, maybe you can coach me through this transition of, how to manage the potential of growing this great platform along with maybe scaling Strong Start even more.
Yeah.
Get some free
Sorry.
advice.
Oh boy, Mark, I'm not sure I'm the free advice you want.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm curious about when you talk about that. You talk about Strong Start being this kind of 0 to 5 focus. What is the difference? So you have two children.
One. I got one. My little
Okay.
guy, Abby. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry,
It's
I was
okay.
gonna go with a hypothetical. So let's say
Sure.
there's two children in front of me. Uh,
Okay.
they're both 6. One of them has spent the first 5 years of their life in Strong Start, and the other is maybe going to kindergarten or first grade or whatever it is at 6, whatever that is at 6, with no Strong Start, but have the same sort of learning difference. What difference does Strong Start and the work you do with those children? Like, what difference will that make when they get to 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So we take a lot of pride in having a quality curriculum at Strong Start. So it's research based. The philosophy is a Reggio Emilio philosophy. So the learning is it's not scripted, it's very exploratory. We expect the kids to take intellectual risks. We hire qualified educators who can implement the model. And with that, we're helping the kids develop an approach to learning. We want them to think it's definitely not babysitting. And we're out in Connecticut, as I mentioned, so we're also following the Connecticut learning standards. So what the children are doing in an infant classroom or a pre-K classroom is implementing those learning standards. So
Mhm.
from that perspective, there's a system in place that's looking at their development. We're sharing that with parents. We're keeping data. Um, that being said, at that age, at any age, I would argue, you just want children to love learning. It's not super structured in that sense, but we're setting up a lot of different opportunities for them to take intellectual risks.
Mm.
There are other very high quality programs. There are other programs that are not thinking about the educational piece in the way that we are. So, I'm obviously biased. I think a child who spends time at Strong Start is going to be off to kindergarten, being able to kind of work within a group. They're going to socialize. They're going to have kind of the experiences that come along with being in a classroom with other children, where you're just going to kind of learn through that experience. They're going to get bit. They're going to bite someone. They're going to go through life. They're going to kind of deal with stress. They're going to deal with the idea of getting knocked down and getting it back up. That being said, I've seen wonderful outcomes where children are with their mom for 3 years. And the last thing that I would ever do is judge. If that's what a family is able to do, that's a wonderful opportunity for the child, for the mom or the dad who stays home with the child, or family for that matter. Um, but at Strong Start, we do it differently. I wish it was the norm. I purposely saw a need in the market about 12 years ago where we wanted to implement a high quality model. An advantage that I have is that we're 100% owned by me. So there are not kind of corporate expectations. There are not franchise fees. We pay better than the industry and we get reliability amongst the staff. We don't have an issue with turnover. I've loved it. I mean, it's been an amazing experience. I like to say it was my MBA because I'm the kind of guy who I'm not really going to learn as much in a classroom. And I'm the type of person who needs to sort of trial and error. Made a lot of mistakes with Strong Start. I didn't make the big mistake, but I learned through those mistakes and we're in a really good place now. I could talk about this forever. I'd say the last 6 months, we've really focused a lot on the systems. We've integrated AI. We've developed this platform for the automation to an extent of enrollment, where obviously there's human beings involved, but it really has organized the flow, the funnel of marketing. It's been a blast. I've had a great time kind of dealing with that systematization of kind of the enrollment piece. So yeah, no, it's been a blast.
Yeah, that's cool. That seems like really good work, Mark.
Thank you.
That seems like great work to sort of think for the future adults. Like I think there's
Yeah,
something about working with adults and being able to like see fruit now, and I think there's something also about saying we're going to invest in these kids where you might not even get to see the fruit. Like that takes a special kind of mindset and perspective.
it is beautiful. I mean, one of the things as you sort of build, you lose touch with the micro. So I'm not as involved really at all with the day to day. But, when I was in the trenches with these little kids, it's an amazing experience. I mean, young kids, I mean, I know you have kids, they're so authentic. And, I would, early on, I'm changing light bulbs, I'm doing things, and, I'd be on a ladder and the kids would think I'm a superhero because I'm fixing a light bulb. It makes you feel it's like I'm like this amazing figure in their life. And young kids in particular, they're so authentic. They're just kind of they're like sponges and they're adorable. And that I miss a little bit. I do go and visit. They let me come and hang out with the kids, but yeah, no, I mean, listen, I think being around early childhood, being around young families, being around kind of that first stage in life for even a new mom, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's really a very satisfying experience. And I do truly believe that we are giving them a strong start. We're giving them a foundation. The whole goal of Strong Start is to send them to kindergarten loving learning.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Thanks for that, Mark. Here's a shift of a question into sort of the adult entrepreneur world. You're working with lots of adults and entrepreneurs with learning differences. Why are there so many entrepreneurs that walk into this world of entrepreneurialism with learning differences?
They're comfortable with failure. The number one reason why there are so many dyslexic ADHD entrepreneurs
Mm,
is they have failed a lot. They are not intimidated by starting something new. They have fears, they have
yeah,
anxiety,
yeah,
but the research says, particularly for dyslexia, they're comfortable around failure. They might fail, but they'll get back up. I mean, I have failed a lot. And Kurt, you could probably relate to this. You've learned a lot more from your failures than your successes.
100%. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm raising a 5-year-old right now and I'm letting him fail. And I am trying not to be that helicopter parent where he literally has body armor when he rides his bike because I'm afraid he's going to hurt himself. But it's a different world than what we grew up in,
it sure is.
So, I like double bolt my door and we're in a nice neighborhood. But, I mean, that's the main reason. I mean, starting a business, it's not just the financial risk, but it's also your pride. It's also this is a possibility of failure, and you got to be comfortable with life experiences taking you towards that path. And then the other reason, the main reason is the comfort with failure. But other reasons would be, and this is maybe a bit more anecdotal, but I know for myself, I'm able to identify allies. I'm able to find people that can help me do things that I don't do well. And I'm
Yeah.
very aware of what I don't do well, and I'm aware of what I do do well. The other piece to why there are so many entrepreneurs with learning differences ADHD is they're good problem solvers.
Mm.
You know, I like to say, I I was developing as an entrepreneur in school. School started the experience because I had to kind of figure out how to get through a biology class. It was not my strength. It was not something that I was going to be able to sit there and just listen to the teacher, you know, particularly like, this experience was passive learning. That's not my thing, but I had to figure it out. I had to get through it. My girlfriend in college was an English major. She helped me a lot. She didn't write my papers, but you find people that are allies, and really as you grow a business, there's two things you do. You solve a lot of problems
Yeah. Yeah.
and you persevere. You persevere. And the other thing too is a business that has grown over the last 12 to 13 years. You better evolve. You better
Mhm.
adapt. You better adjust. So that's really your experiences with learning differences. So what I'm doing now in any entrepreneur that's neurodiverse, it's really just a natural extension of their life experience. I was lucky. I had a mom who was raising me in a way that growth mindset was an important part of the process. She didn't care about the outcome, she cared
Yeah.
about the process. And when I look back, that was so important because, there was a lot of failure with school early on, but it was more about perseverance. It was more about what did you do to try to get help.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really important parenting takeaway that kids are resilient. They can do it. They can figure it out. They need help. They need a foundation, but don't do it for them. I like to tease my mom because she's also dyslexic. She couldn't do the work for me. So that was good. She let
Yeah.
me just flounder or figure it out. And if you think about school, it's important to do well in school. It's important to apply yourself in biology, history, math, whatever it is. I'm not saying that that is not important. You need to learn those academic subjects. But really, school, from my lens and the way I think about it for my son, is it's more about how do you develop as a person? How do you use this academic experience to develop resiliency, to figure out how to get through it and get the best experience. The thing that I say to a lot of people who have not been the most successful in school, particularly teenagers, is school is a generalized experience. They expect you to be good at everything. In the valedictorian, God bless them, they work their butt off. They're smart. They should be the valedictorian, but they were a generalist. They were good at everything. They mastered everything. Good for them. The real world requires you to master one thing and you can do great things.
Yeah. Yeah. Mark, I love that perspective. I heard you say something Chris and I'll talk about a lot is this idea of formation, and that school is a time for formation as a human.
Yeah.
Less about like, can I regurgitate these biology facts,
Yeah.
but how can I use these times, even the hard times, how can I use them as a moment of formation?
Listen, Kurt, we could have a whole separate podcast on my beliefs of education and what's important. I mean, what's coming down the pike and it's already there is how technology and you're not putting the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
And I get it. There's so many amazing opportunities with AI, but it also scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But that's
Same.
but that's the reality of it. But you're not putting it back in the bottle. So to your point, like what schools need to emphasize with what is already in place and it's going to become mainstream, they really need to rethink. And there are progressive schools that are thinking about this.
Yeah.
You need to integrate it. You need to embrace it. You need to teach kids. You need to teach adults, by the way, but particularly kids how to use it. As a neurodiverse person, AI is absolutely brilliant.
Mm,
So if
mm,
you think about my cognitive profile, right? If you look at an intelligence exam, I have areas that are significant strengths, but I have an area in particular, my working memory is very discrepant from
Mm.
my other measures of IQ.
Sure.
The AI goes a long way in kind of bridging that. It's amazing.
Mm.
And it helps me kind of really not um be exposed as much with my working memory issue, which is just a sort of it's just the way my brain is. You're gonna raise my working memory by, remediating it over and over again. It is what it is. It's like an athlete who runs a 4.5 40. That's just you're blessed with that. With
Yeah.
my working memory, and it particularly in school, it presented a lot of challenges without getting too much into the weeds. Like if someone's verbally kind of explaining something to me, working memory is like a mental notepad.
Yeah.
You're holding it there and then you're using it in some way. With working memory issues, that's a deficit. The AI, I'll give you a good example. Like,
Yeah.
I have a lease that needs to be reviewed. I put it into AI and I ask with a prompt that's going to be targeted, explain to me all of the risks and potential threats in this lease. And this is a 150-page document. And of course, I
Yep.
have legal counsel. Saves me money because
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
go to the lawyer with questions, but I am not, and I have people who work for me who can go through it, but like I am not going through a 150-page document with, a very like a very sort of, precise evaluation of it. I'm just not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. You bring up a lot of, man, I want to go 15 different places, Mark.
yeah, well,
Um,
by the way, that I like to say if I ever have a boat, it's going to be called I digress because I like to digress. I mean, these topics are very interesting to me, and they're all interrelated, though.
yeah. 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 My kid would say, W boat name, Mark.
It's funny.
Uh, so I want to go back. I want to go back to something you said about allies.
Yeah,
This is something that I think is beneficial for any entrepreneur. Like the idea of having allies is good for
yeah.
anybody getting into that world. I'm curious what you would say about the importance of an ally for you, and how does one be an ally for someone with some neurodiversity or learning difference?
Yeah, it's a great question. First I'll just sort of preface my answer by I have never met anyone who didn't want to help me.
Yeah.
You might have, it depends, how busy the person is, how in demand they are, what they've done with their life. But if you keep asking and you're persistent, I've never met anyone who's turned me down. And there's a famous quote from Steve Jobs where he talks about the Hewlett Packard CEO. He cold called him from the phone book. He got his number. I don't
Wow.
know how old he was. He was like a teenager maybe, and he just called the guy. Remember phone books? And
Of course.
and this is the CEO of, I'm pretty sure it's Hewlett Packard. I apologize if it's not that company, but it was a big tech company. The guy helped him out. So the I can answer the question from a couple different perspectives. First, you need to sort of understand who you are and what your strengths are. So I know for myself, I am much more organized now because of technology. But if you ask me where any piece of paper is at one of my businesses, I don't know. So I have this amazing employee, and she is really the person who runs Strong Start. And just because of fate and timing and her skill set, her name's Christina, helped me build Strong Start into what it is now. And um, her brain works in ways that mine does not. Like we tease each other where I'm like, Christina, you need to think like a dyslexic. She's like, Mark, I'm not a dyslexic, and you need to think like someone who's organized. And I'm like, well, I'm not organized. So the reason I bring that up is like you want to find that ally who's maybe different in their skill set, and then you have we have common values. We're both very honest. We have integrity. We lead by empathy with boundaries. Like she's a very good leader and she cares a lot about her employees. She's no pushover, but she's kind. And so we just kind of like, um, have this working chemistry that's wonderful. She's a great ally. And then he could talk about mentors. Mentors are incredibly powerful. And that's maybe not as structured, but just talking to someone who's done it, who's been
Yeah.
successful, and they love talking about it. Everyone wants to feel important. That's just part of human psychology. And if you
Yeah.
can get them for 10, 20, 30 minutes go in with specific questions, like what I have a mentor, my landlord is an amazing person, very, very successful entrepreneur. And, when I have and this kind of guy who's super busy, but when I have an opportunity to talk to him, I have like specific questions. Like, I'm working on this problem. And you know what? In 10 minutes, he helps me work through it.
Yeah.
So, finding that type of mentor is incredibly powerful. You just have to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to add, though, and is
Yeah.
not a mentor, maybe an ally, but I use ChatGPT. I'm not kidding. Like I
Not a
will,
sponsor.
yeah, exactly. I'll go to it with something I'm thinking about. And I got the pro package. I got ChatGPT on steroids. Another important, huge, huge part of how I get that feedback loop. I have an excellent therapist. You can call her a coach. I know you're a coach.
Yeah.
To have someone that you compensate, it's a formal relationship.
Yeah.
The most successful people I know, they have that relationship in their life. And as an entrepreneur, it's imperative. I
Yeah.
have a excellent relationship with the person that I meet with once a week by Zoom and has really helped me grow. So I really, really encourage. I know finances can be an issue.
Yeah.
So, but there's all types of coaches, there's all types of therapists. My relationship with my therapist was more kind of quote unquote therapeutic, where I wasn't in a great place. She helped me tremendously get through a lot. I tell you what, though, if you go into that kind of relationship, you got to work hard. The only way it works is if it's painful, if it's if you're just showing up and
Yeah.
talking about the weather, it's not going to work. You got to be able to go into that relationship and dig deep and look within, and then it works. And now my relationship has evolved with this person to be more of coaching. I go to her as a sounding board to kind of walk through different decision making
Yeah.
that I have to do, and I love it. It's worth every single dollar. And I will say this: I wish I started it 15 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say the same for like I have a coach, I have a therapist. I mean, I wish I started that work so much sooner. And one of the things we say, one of the things Chris and I say is that we believe if a leader isn't investing in their own growth, that disqualifies them from leadership. And I would say that we would apply that to ourselves and we would give that to every one of our clients too, that it's that important, whether it's investing, the time and money into a therapist, which is not nothing. Uh, and those places of greatest resistance are often places of greatest growth too, right? Uh,
100%. I mean, Kurt, you can relate to this. The perception that we have of most things is not reality.
yeah. Yeah. Keep going, Mark.
Where our nervous system is designed to be protective.
Yeah.
And I have not mastered fear, but
Yeah.
I'm not a monk. I'm not,
Yeah.
but I so incredibly important to have a sounding board to walk through that fear. I mean, there's good research on this. Like and forgive me if I'm misquoting it, but like 80% of our thoughts are not reality.
Mm, wow. Yeah, that's alarming. It's
It,
jarring. At the least, it's jarring.
And the thing I would add, and it kind of falls under the umbrella, it's not a mentor or an ally, but I meditate every day, transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
Whatever meditation you can find, it doesn't have to be TM, incredibly important. Just to be there for 20 minutes twice a day, not really kind of thinking about anything is the way I describe it. And it calms your nervous system and energizes you. Huge, huge fan. I wish again, listen,
Yeah.
I'm telling your audience, the younger audience, do all these things in your 20s and life will be sort of a smoother path. I started doing TM about 5 years ago. I heard Ray Dalio, who was the
Mm.
founder of the largest hedge fund in the world, says that it was the most important. Transcendental meditation was the most important part of his success. So I'm like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing, so I might as well start it.
Yeah, that's fair. Does that like keep you uh with a perspective of what's real and what's true? Like is that connected to this 80% of our thoughts are not based on reality or fact? Does that like keep you grounded in here's what's true and here's what's real in my life?
Yes, in a simplified, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I describe meditation like this for me, sort of like, you're forgive me. Oh, so you don't have I-95 where you are, but like it's
I
95 is
understand.
like
Uh-huh.
it's a very trafficked highway, right? And
Uh-huh.
so you got all these cars going back and forth, but with meditation, you're looking over all that traffic. You
Yeah.
have a sense of perspective on all of that chaos. And that's what meditation does for you. Um and also with TM, there's a ton of research on it, lowers your blood pressure. It really, really can definitely affect your nervous system in a really positive way. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark, I feel like we could just keep going for
Yeah.
hours. Let me wrap up a little bit here.
Sure, sure.
What might you want to say to our audience? And our audience is typically people that are leading someone
Yeah.
in
Sure.
nonprofit world, corporate world, leading someone. Uh, what would you like? What's something you want to leave them with today?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, be of service. You
Mm,
know, be of service and take the time to really build fidelity with your employees. You are not their friend, you're not their parent, but you are someone that they need to be able to trust. They need to feel vulnerable.
mm,
They also need to have boundaries. I totally sort of lead with an understanding that these are expectations,
yeah.
but and this has never been my style, but I am not a micromanager. I'm not someone, I always like to say if someone needs to be micromanaged, they're not the right fit for our culture.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I would say, sort of systemically as a leader, and this is just the reality of human nature in any culture. At this point, Strong Start we just opened our third school. So, it'd be about 160 employees. And there's always going to be um, a group that should not be part of that culture anymore. And it's not because they did something egregious. They didn't do something that is necessarily like a fireable offense in the moment,
Mhm.
but their attitude, we've invested in them, we've tried. And if we think about it as like 10% every year is just going to be exited out. And then you work towards kind of getting as many as you can to reach their highest level
Yeah.
of performance. And it's all relative. And, one of the things I had to learn is not everyone is as ambitious and cares as much about what doing a great job is the way I think about it. So I had to kind of like I had this naive notion that everyone's just gonna go after it hungry, makes
Yeah.
them feel good. They're
Yeah.
intrinsically motivated.
Yeah.
Life is not a rehearsal.
Yeah.
A lot of people just are 9 to 5 and they do a
Yeah.
good job, they show up and that's fine. And then you do find those handful of employees that would run through a brick wall. And those are the ones that you really, really invest in, and the ones that you kind of develop into those leaders. And that can, my dream someday is to build an entity that has that kind of tenacity, that kind of like across the board. But every small business owner I talk to, and I'm sure if I talk to more kind of moderate to large companies, that's just the reality of the mix.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But yeah,
Can I tell you a really quick story?
please.
Mark, I'm so sorry, but I like this story. I supervised a manufacturing plant crew of employees that were doing a process. They were creating a thing. I'm trying to be a little vague because people might know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Okay.
And I supervised a crew of 12 people, and this was way before I knew anything about self-awareness or anything about emotional health. I had one guy, I'm gonna call him Steven. Steven like would look at a machine and it would break. Right? Like that was just Steven. And not a bad guy, just he would look at something and it would break. And I remember thinking as his supervisor, man, if I could just get rid of Steven, everything's going to be better. If I could just figure out how to like transfer Steven or like
Yeah.
just not have him on my crew, everything's going to be better. Well, finally, Steven transferred to a different place in the plant. And guess what? There's another Steven. Like there's always the
Yeah.
lowest performer. But that was my sort of young leader, naive, like, well, if I could just get rid of this one 9 to 5 person who doesn't have the same tenacity, then everything's going to be better. And I realize, like, I look back now and realize, like, that's Steven was my problem. Like, Steven could have probably done things differently, but that was really a me problem. And I think that resonates with what you're saying, like, just the reality of the mix of work and workers and how do we lead amongst the mix? Yeah, I love it, Mark.
Exactly. No,
Um,
this has been a blast. This is awesome.
yeah, yeah. How do people connect with you? Do you want people
Yeah,
to?
sure. Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, markhoffman.net is the best way to kind of get connected with the work that I'm doing. Then you'll be able to access the podcast Wired to Thrive.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, no, that's really sort of the best way to get to me. And then you can also get to the social media assets through the website. But yeah, thanks for asking.
yeah, cool. I'll put a link to that in the show notes
Thank
so
you.
people can click that. Mark, this has been a blast. I am grateful to call you a peer and a colleague. And I hope to be able to see from a distance that transition that you're talking about that you teased out a little bit. I hope to see that kind of play out in the ways that we can stay connected. So thanks for your time. Thanks for being a peer and a colleague and giving up some of the space today.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.